Shabbat Shalom Mishpacha. This is the Kohen speaking. Today we'll discuss about which oils to use, and then we'll talk about on the food front. We'll talk about, so the lecture will be probably a shortened version as I'm on travels again. But this will be a very informative lecture, especially the last part where I discuss ramping up your affirmations to produce them quickly. So as regard to oil, there are a number of factors at which oil we should use, and there are several oils in the market. As you know, if you go to a supermarket in America today or in Europe, several types of oils are presented to you, starting from vegetable oil, canola oil, and several other oils like corn, sunflower, olive oil, peanut oil, and several others probably as well on the list, like rapeseed oil, etc. Out of these, the various oils that have been studied in terms of regarding, what gives our body side effects, what oil you cook in. All oils that we use have a smoking point. So looking at the oil smoking point, we can look at a few oils and their smoke points. For instance, refined avocado oil is at 520 degrees Fahrenheit. Refined or light olive oil is 465 Fahrenheit. Refined peanut oil is 450 for deep frying, stir frying. Ghee, which is produced from the cow, or butter, is at 450 Fahrenheit. Corn oil, sunflower or safflower is 450. Refined coconuts 450 Fahrenheit. Refined sesame oil is 410 Fahrenheit. Canola oil is at 400 Fahrenheit. Grapeseed is at 400 Fahrenheit. Extra virgin olive oil is at 375. Duck fat, chicken fat, lard is at 375. Vegetable oil is at 400 Fahrenheit. Unrefined virgin avocado oil is at 375. Unrefined virgin coconut oil is at 350 Fahrenheit. Unrefined walnut oil and unrefined peanut oil is at 320 Fahrenheit. Walnut at 300 to 350 Fahrenheit. Butter at 300 Fahrenheit. So here is the thing that you need to understand with smoking points. Smoking point means at a point which the oil becomes toxic. Means if you put oil in a pan and you see that after a while it starts to smoke, the oil starts to smoke, that means that it's reached a smoking point. Now what the oil's cooking is doing is breaking down its content of omega-6 and omega-3. Now omega-6 is highly toxic when it breaks down like that in different oils. So this is why several oils in the market are not suitable. Even olive oil at that is not suitable because omega-6 breaks down and becomes toxic. So olive oil actually has a lower content of smoking point. So when we consider smoking point, how does it affect us? How do you know that the oil is affecting you? Whatever oil you're eating out there, how would you know that it's affecting you? It's very simple. Are you getting joint pains? Are you having problem with your arteries? Are you having problem with inflammations? Are you having heart problems, heart pain, things like that? All these things are indicative factors of the oil you eat. And if you're starting to get these, then if you're starting to get joint pains, you're starting to get chest pains, then stop using whatever oil you're using because your oil smoking point is low and it's actually becoming toxic, and omega-6 is highly toxic. They won't tell you this in the West, by the way. They're not telling you this in public TV. You're not finding this in the media because they are not interested in telling you these things. There's a lot of big industry behind it. Now, canola oil is similar to, I say, not exactly the same. Slightly the contents have been modified. Plus, it's not cold pressed, and so it can't be considered equal. But the best oil that you should use, is mustard oil. Now, canola oil is similar to mustard oil, but it's not cold pressed, and it's pressed industrially in a different way, and oleic acid and other things are removed from it, which at one point America banned mustard oil because of I believe is the oleic acid content that it had and some other content that they didn't like. Now, nowadays the mustard that is produced, especially in the East, in India, Pakistan, countries like this, produce a lot of mustard, and America produces mustard as well. Now, the content is different of the oleic acid and other contents in there. Now, how do you use that oil? It's the best oil to use, actually. Mustard oil has been proven over here in the East to be the best oil to use. An Indian study found that 71% people, heart rates or heart attacks were reduced because they were on mustard oil. Now, the way you use mustard oil, because it may have a very spicy or not quite spicy, but a tangy smell to it. There are ways in the East that people will remove that smell, and there are two ways I'll give you. Number one is you take a dough, take some flour, regular wheat flour, make a little dough of it, and put it into the oil that you're going to cook with. Pour all your oil into a pot, put the little dough in it, and cook it for about maybe 5 minutes, and then throw the dough away, and it removes the kind of smell, high smell content. The other thing you can also add to that is you can add coconut cuts, like slices of coconut, put it in there, and that also removes the rancid smell of the mustard oil, and it makes it nicer smell. So that way you can then cool it down and pour it back into your bottles, and that is the best cold pressed mustard oil which is produced in this country here. Not sure about America, what they're doing these days with mustard oil, but normally they make their oils industrial. And industrial oils always, the problem is that they become toxic at a certain point of cooking. So you want to be very careful, because don't think that olive oil is the best. It's not, and neither is coconut. And the number one oil at number one list is mustard oil. Number two, number one, I would say, not mustard oil, sorry. Number one on the list is ghee, which is from cow. Number two is clarified butter, or not clarified, wrong way. Ghee is clarified butter, and number two is normal butter. So ghee, which is called, mainly used in the Indian subcontinent, is used by people, and here normal butter is used by less people, but it's a lot more used in Europe, normal butter. So we have to understand the difference between clarified butter and normal butter. These two are okay, but butter, if anybody's ever lived with me, would have seen me cooking, that I put a slice of butter at the end of the cooking. If anybody's lived with me, they would have seen that I never put butter at the beginning and let it, burn for 1 hour, because then that becomes toxic. And Europe people do that. They cook with butter and they let it, go on for maybe, 15-20 minutes. That's too long for butter. It becomes toxic. But when you want to put butter, you only want to put it on your bread cold, or slightly warm. Then it's no problem. You put it in your garnish, you put it in your salad, or you put it in the end of, if you're doing Indian type Indian type cooking, then you put the butter slice at the very end, maybe 5 minutes of it only. And 5 minutes is enough for that butter to melt, and you'll have the best flavor and the best results, but you're not going to get toxicity of omega-6. Remember that. Very important. So the best oils to use is going to be mustard, but with the method I showed you how to clean it up, with the dough and the coconut, and the other one, as I said to you, is called clarified butter in America, and normally it's also called ghee. You have a cow's picture on it mostly in Indian stores and Pakistani stores that sell it over there, or as they call the intercontinental stores. So look out for those kind of oils. They have, they're high viscous oils. They're very, very good for your health, and also they will not cause you the kind of problems I just listed. Heart attacks, chest pains, rheumatoid arthritis, varicose veins, and all those kind of problems. So this is very important that you understand what I'm trying to teach you here is for your health and for your longevity. And it is very important because in the Western world, we are not taught these things by the media, and nobody talks about it in schools either. Only when we come out in regular life that we kind of start using these things, and suddenly you find that somebody's had a heart attack and somebody's had some other problem. Also, the other thing I will mention, cooking-wise, pots-wise, is most of you probably know this already, is that a lot of you, I'm pretty sure, are using this. Number one spot for cooking is made of clay. Now be careful with Mexican clay pots because they may have some toxic materials in there, like they use a liner. And when they use a liner, that may cause some problems. But if you get a regular Indian Pakistani pot made of clay, it should be no problem. They don't use any chemicals. So those are great to use for cooking. Always, if you can, number one is clay. Number two is cast iron. Now, cast iron is readily available in America, UK, Europe, readily available and pretty inexpensive. It's not that expensive, but it is the best way to cook is using those two materials. The third material is, the coatings that we get these days on fry pans and other things, but they can become toxic. Be careful about those because at high heat points they can become toxic. So need to pay a little bit more attention to those third ones that regular coatings that you get in supermarkets and stuff that they tell you non-stick. Those non-stick labels, depending how they're made, sometimes they can become toxic and they can affect you. So I would always highly recommend you to use clay pot. Always keep one clay pot in the house, and you can do all your cooking in that. And if that's not possible, then you must have a cast iron pot and a cast iron fry pan, because those two items alone, you can go to a place like to Amazon, and you can pick up these items for $20 and $30 a piece. They're not expensive. They're not at all expensive. They have a high life. They have a low, very well, I would say low to none. I would say non-toxicity in those, and extremely good for your cooking and for your health. So, by the by, don't think coconut oil is I remember listening to one lecture. It was in a rabbinic institute in Florida, and one cardiologist came and he said that coconut oil was the best, but that's not true. That is absolutely today not true. The best oil on the market is mustard oil, and even before that is what's called clarified butter or ghee, and these are the number one oils to use if you can. But like I said, that some people may not like the flavor of clarified butter, and some people may not like the high rancid smell of mustard oil, but you can remove the rancid smell by the method I revealed to you. And if you do that, then you can expect to live to 100, no problem. And you can also expect to not have pains in your joints and not have heart attacks and things like that. So I would highly encourage you to consider doing that for yourselves, so that you can live a long, prosperous, and life of abundance. This is very important on top of everything else that we do. And these things that we're talking about are things that came out of the Torah. Our ancient people used to produce these things. We used to use clay pots. We used to use oil that came from cows, milk and cow bones. That way oil was produced. But nowadays, obviously, modern methods and things have changed. Today I'd like to look at the story of Judah and Tamar in Genesis 38. This is a question that came to me from one of my students, and he asked me regarding an issue that is in our society, very common, and it was to do with someone relieving themselves manually, a man relieving themselves manually, and his question was is that the right thing to do? Regarding well, the word is masturbation, I guess, and is asking a question regarding that. And he pointed to a chapter in the Torah, in the Bible, chapter 38 of Genesis. And he was using that to gauge whether, masturbation is right or wrong based on that. And I told him that particular chapter has nothing to do with masturbation. It's just nothing to do with it. It's just completely wrongly attributed to such a matter by Christianity generally because of a lack of understanding, including Judaism. They do it out of lack of understanding. It's nothing to do with that. So I wanted to look at Judah and Tamar, chapter 38. And in here, we find a number of things. We find that it says that in chapter 38, verse 1, at that time, Judah left his brothers and went down to stay with a man of Adullam named Hirah. There Judah met the daughter of a Canaanite man named Shua. Now, this is very interesting because he says he married her. And of course, he had relations with her. She became pregnant and she gave birth to two sons. One was and the other was Onan, and then she gave birth to a third son that was Shelah. And it tells you what place that this happened at. It was at Kefa that she gave birth to him. And then it talks about Judah getting a wife for his firstborn son, and the wife's name is Tamar. And then Judah's firstborn just says he was wicked in the sight of Yudhewahe, or in the Lord's sight, and it says that God put him to death because of his wickedness. It doesn't say what his wickedness was. Then it goes on to say that Onan did similarly, and he was given Tamar as a wife in a Levirate marriage, and he also did similarly, where he was also wicked in that he did not want to raise up a son for his brother. And he also was, he dropped his semen, and from here the masturbation issue arises for Christianity and Judaism, and even I would say some other religions. And so they use this passage to say that it is wickedness to do masturbation, things like that. Now, this is not talking about the issue of a man relieving himself. It's nothing to do with that. What is this talking about? This is really. I'm going to simplify this. This is a symbolic passage. This is has to be looked at mystically, has to be understood mystically, and sure there are similarities. There are things in this passage that could be taken literally, but we must be very careful to derive at doctrine teachings that could misfire and could be misapplied. And whenever God tells us not to do something, he gives us a direct command. He says, thou shalt not. But we don't find any such commands for a man, relieving himself or not relieving himself. So again, we must be very careful of how we just pick and choose passages to try to apply to different areas of our life. Here we must look at it from a higher point of view. And from a higher point of view, we see a number of things. There's Judah. There is Adullam. There is this woman Shoah. There is her three sons, and there's Tamar. What are these things? These are. What's happening here is Judah is going to go into a state, and yes, I'm sorry about that. That was my friend who came in, showing me a calf's neck that was calf's tail. I asked him to bring me a calf's tail, so I wanted to make my broth, and he brought a whole calf's tail and put it in front of my face. So I was laughing at that. So yeah, that's for a broth. So as I was saying, that these are states, and what we see here is that in this particular scenario, what we see is that Judah goes to, this place, which is, as you can see, is his go down. He goes down to a man called Adullam, named Hirah. Adullam is a place, and here we see that Shoah, the woman he meets, Shoah means wealth, and so he's about to acquire wealth. Basically this wealth producing object, let's call it an object for a second, or chakra for a moment, we're going to call it the womb chakra. So this is the womb chakra. So this woman is a state of the womb chakra, and this womb chakra is going to produce 3 substates. The substates are named Onan, and Shelah. And then it's told you that where Shelah is, it says it was at Kezib. Kezib basically means false. So we now see that it says that Judah got a wife for his firstborn, and he didn't do the right thing. The second one didn't do the right thing either. Now it talks about the substates. The substates in this case are Onan, and Shelah. Now the substates here, what happens is it talks about a seed. The seed is the planting for the manifesting of a particular desire. Now in this particular instance, it says that the 2 brothers, the seed that they planted, it dropped to the ground. Means that it dropped, it wasn't taken care of properly, it wasn't seen to properly, and so it produced nothing. So just as in a human being, any human being, if you were to adopt a state, and if your state says that you're miserable all the time, and by the way, I do know people who are miserable all the time. I have met people in my life when I was in England that were miserable all the time. That's their state. They never change state. They hardly even smile. And then there are certain other people, very few other people, that are happy all the time. They have a smile on their face. And so their state is a happy state. So what we see here is that the 2 substates, and Onan, are the states in which there is basically no success. And the third state, Shelah, and Tamar here, Tamar is basically means an upright tree. It's like a palm tree. So if you do things right, then you're like an upright tree. Remember the Psalm 1 speaks about the upright palm tree. And again, it's very important that we understand the analogy here given of Tamar and not something else, which basically is indicative. It's a hint. It's what we call a hidden message that you got to be like an upright tree. And it says here in Psalms 1, it talks about Psalm 1, for example. It talks about in verse 3, it says that he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water. And here the tree that is referred to is a palm tree, Tamar. Basically, you should be like a Tamar, an upright tree. That means you're a righteous man, you're a right ruling man, you do the thing correctly, and you're staying in the correct state. So this is talking about the different states that Judah is going through to produce. He's also going into substates, what we might call a bridge of incidents that he will use to produce different results in his life. And so all these names, they are symbols of different things that are happening over here. This is not to do with whether a man should relieve himself or not relieve himself, or who a man should marry and who he should not marry. It's nothing to do with that. It's actually more to do with different states. And Judah basically comes out of it, and when he comes out of it, he has, it names 2 children. At the very end, it names 2 children that are produced through Tamar. When it's through this process, it says that one child's name was Peretz. Peretz means to break forth. That means that you either broken through and you got what you desired there, and then it gives you the second part, Zara. The Zara is to raise up, or a seed. Zara, Zera, Zara, different applications of Zera, Zara. It means that to stand up. Also, it can be Zera, can be used for a seed, but Zara here means that to be, be up or upright, or rise up, even to rise. So Faretz, to break forth, Zara, to rise, means that if you did everything correctly, And even you made mistakes, like, in the case of Onan, and Shelah with the 3 sub-states, that, we're talking about the wealth, the woman's name being Shoah, meaning she is wealth. And again, like I said to you, that you do not just see her as a woman, see it as a production of something that you desire. A end result is that you are about to do something. A student of mine comes to me and says to me that I like to have this sports car, and I like to have this house in, say, Michigan, for argument's sake. And he says that a Michigan house that I desire to buy is about $500 odd $1,000. And the car, I don't know the car's price. Let's just say it's a $100,000 car. So again, his end result is producing 2 items. Now, there could be substates of that. What is a substate? A substate is that when he buys a house, he's obviously going to buy furniture in there as well. It might be expensive furniture, might not be so expensive, but he is going to need furniture. That's the substate of the house. Now, same way, in his car, there may be things that he wants to do to his car, like he wants to do some modifications, maybe change the tires, the rims, maybe, change the inside a little bit, change the way the seats look, change the way the lights look, or the way the things look inside the car. And so again, substates. So these are substates. And here, what I see here is not whether a man is going to do something right or wrong in the sense of sexually. What I see over here is different states that are described of a man. It could be a woman as well. And how the wrong application will not bring the desired result. This is why when we see here in this particular chapter 38, and it says here that, it says that he dropped the seed, or he dropped the seed on the ground. First one, it says, did something evil. Second one, dropped the seed on the ground, talking about the second son. And it says, it was something that displeased the Lord. Well, the Lord is your I am. God is your I am. So it displeased I am because the way he handled that state, the substate that we're talking about over here, wasn't handled correctly. Remember, these are all subsets or subsections of Judah. This is Judah doing the state. Judah is a person doing the state, and everything else is a result of what he does and the results he gets. That's how it must be seen. It must not be seen more than that. It must not be seen as, Judah went and did this and Judah went and did that. No. Then if we do that, if we start to contrive doctrine and teachings out of this that go into sexuality and who you should marry and who you should not marry and what you should do, then I think we're straying a little bit. Because remember, the Torah has 70 faces. I'm giving you one face of the Torah. I may have given you one face of it earlier. I don't think I ever spoke about this chapter in any particular length ever. But now I'm giving you the chapters, in some details, one facet of it, which I find is very important and must not be construed the wrong way. Because if you construe it the wrong way, you're going to end up condemning people. You're going to end up, saying that they're evil, and it's going to go totally, whoopsie wrong. It's going to go all the wrong way. So I'd like you to encourage you that whenever we look at scriptures, we did not in the ancient times interpret scripture literally. I keep saying that because this literal interpretation came in very, very late. It came in the Middle Ages, and after the 10th century, this literal interpretation that came in, it literally destroyed the whole concept of the power of Torah. That the power of Torah that is in the mystical interpretation was literally destroyed by the literal interpretation. Let's put it this way. This is why I say it, that today Judaism, Christianity is such a powerless religion, man-made religions, that they are powerless. Why? Because the devotee, the person who follows these religions, he can't produce nothing other than just being sad, upset, always asking God to give me this, give me that. It never happens. And very rarely something happens to him that he might be happy about. People go to churches for years and years and years, and the results are sometimes totally negative and totally zero. So I want to take you away from all of those things, and I want you to be able to have fantastic results. Fantastic results. And that can only happen when we go into a proper interpretation of the mystical side of Torah and the Bible, as we call it. So, this is why I encourage you to always think carefully and do not try to make new doctrines out of things that are not meant to be. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. And thank you, Tada, for listening. Now, coming back to the Parsha, Akev, looking at that, I want to just quickly tell you in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 12, where it says, "Therefore it shall come to pass, if you listen to my voice, to these judgments, and guard and do them, that Yahweh your power shall guard you into the covenant and unmerited favor which he swore to your fathers, to your Avot." Okay, Avot. So, and he will love you and bless you and multiply you. He will also bless you with many children, and the fruit of your land, your wheat and your wine and your oil, the offspring of your oxen and the flocks of your sheep, in the land which he swore to your fathers to give you, to your Avot to give you. You shall be blessed above all people. There shall not be male or female barren among you or among your cattle. So, how do we go about claiming these blessings? How do we go by activating them? It's very well reading about it over here. But most people don't even know what the heck to do with it. They're just sitting there staring at a piece of paper in a book. And they don't know what to do with it. So this is important mystical. This is an important mystical text. This has important meaning, and we can apply many meanings to this. But let's apply the Peshat or literal meaning for now, before we go into the mystical side. The mystical side is, of course, you're going to manifest blessings. That's the mystical side. And the literal side is that you're going to get your desires. That's the literal side. That's what it's saying. It's saying that you are above everybody else. And yeah, that is the literal side too. So how do you go about receiving it? Well, like I said, most people don't have a clue what to do. This is what you're going to do. You're going to ramp it up. And you're going to ramp up your blessings. And you're going to speak them. And you're going to claim them. And you're going to say, I am blessed. God has blessed me. Yes, he has. Yes, I'm blessed. Yes, he has. Yes, I'm blessed. I've received my blessings. I'm receiving them now. I've received them. I am receiving them. I'm receiving many blessings daily. Miracles are happening in my life daily. I'm receiving all sorts of blessings. I got my new car. I got my house. I got money in the bank. I've got blessings. God has blessed me. God said that he would bless me. God has kept his promise. He has done it. I'm so ecstatic. I'm so happy. He's blessed me. So what you do is you can also write it down. You can write it on a piece of paper. I'm so happy and grateful that God has blessed me. I'm receiving many blessings. Miracles are happening all the time in my life. And then you just repeat it. You just use about 5 minutes of your time. You might be sitting alone. 5 minutes of your time is always asked in one session that you repeat these words. I've received my blessings. God is blessed. God said he will bless me. God has blessed me. God is blessing me. You see, put it into the past, present, future. God said, God is, God did. So God said he will bless me. God has blessed me. I have received my blessing. I've got money in my bank. Yes, I have money in my bank. Yes, I have money in my bank. I have money to buy my car. I have money to purchase my house. Thank you, Lord. Thank you that you blessed me. Thank you that you blessed me. I am grateful. I'm grateful for your blessings. I love you, Lord. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father, that you blessed me. Thank you. I receive your blessings. I receive it. Yes, he's blessed me. Yes, money is here. Yes, the promises are true. Yes, what he said is true. I receive it. And over it goes. You do about 5 minutes of that and you stop. Then after that, throughout the day, sporadically throughout the day, maybe 2 times, maybe 3 times in the day. It's good to do it about 3 to 4 times. You say the same words, so you're ramping it up. You're affirming, you're believing. This, by the way, is where Neville describes changing your state. From your miserable state, from your downcast, oh, I can't have this, oh, it's not happening, oh, I've been doing it for 6 months, oh, from that miserable state where you're saying to yourself it's not happening, or maybe you're even calculating your time, maybe you're looking at your time and saying, well, it's been 6 months, well, it's been 8 months, well, it's been a whole year, it's now 2 years. See, you can count the time or you can count your blessings. Which one would you rather do? Do you want to count the time or do you want to count the blessings? So if you continue to count the time, that's what you manifest. You manifest more time. Because if you keep saying to yourself, 3 months have passed, then 3 months will pass again. So what you manifested is just 3 months and nothing else. So when you say 3 months have passed, then 3 months have passed. 3 months later, you say, oh, another 3 months have passed because it's manifested. Then another 3 months have passed and manifested because that's what you're asking. What you're asking, you will produce. But when you say, I am blessed, God said He will bless me. God has blessed me. I have received my blessing. My money is in my bank. I can now buy my car. I can buy my home. I am greatly blessed. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm greatly blessed. God has sent me the money. Yes, it's in my bank. Yes, it's there. Yes, it's there. So, you tell yourself that 3 times a day. The doctor said 3 times a day. I'm your best teacher. I'm your best Kohen. I'm your best manifesting coach. You're going to learn these things from me and you're going to apply them and you're going to be greatly benefited. You're never going to look back. No, don't ever look back. Because if you look back, you look at failures. Don't need to look at failures. We don't depend. We don't rely on our failures. We don't rely on our limiting beliefs. Oh, that time I didn't have the money to pay my bill. No, because you have money to pay your bills. You're gonna say, if you had bills, and you pay them by a certain date, or if you go by dates, if you pay bills on the 10th of the month, and then you're gonna say, I paid my bills. All my bills are paid. And you can just believe today is the 10th. Even today may not be the 10th. Today is some other date. And you can just say today is the 10th. I paid my bills. Yes, all my bills are paid. I'm happy. My bills are paid. Yes, they are. Yes, they are paid. Yes, they are. Yes, my bills are paid. Yes, all my bills are paid. Yes, all my bills are paid. It is very, very effective when you do it this way. It's extremely effective and it will lead you to many successes. This is when we are ramping up our success. We are ramping up our manifestation. We are causing it to come quicker. This is how you ramp it up and this is how you receive it faster. You can put a timeline on it, but you don't need to continue to look at time. I would always ask you to date your affirmation just one time, so you know when you started it. That's all. Then you don't need to continue to look at how long it has been, but you can continue to do the ramping up and see how fast the manifestation comes. If there are any flaws, if there are any difficulties, flaws, limiting beliefs, you deal with it. But most of all, you got to deal with yourself. You got to deal with your disbelief. It's the disbelief that causes a manifestation not to come quicker. When your disbelief is gone, when you're already believing that yes, it's here, what's going to stop it from coming? Only you can bring it and only you can stop it. You are your best friend. You are your worst enemy. Whichever side you take. So you take the best side and you go with it. I think that, I don't want to go too much into other things today. I've done two different topics before this. So from the point of view of ramping it up, I also wanted to tell you another technique that I would employ. And that technique would be, is part of the ramp up. It's where you take one desire, or you can take 2 or 3 desires. It's okay. 3 to 5 desires will work as well. But obviously, you're not going to work on 5 desires at the same time. You may break it down to one desire, you may decide two, or you may decide even more than two. So let's just say that you decide on, let's say you decide on 3 desires for argument's sake. Then we don't overload with 5 or 10. And you decide with 3 desires that your top priority. They're going to be top priority desires, like, urgency. You want them quickly. And then what you do is you take that desire. It may be $1 million for argument's sake. It may be a new car. And you're going to continue to tell yourself that I have that $1 million. I have that $1 million. I have received that $1 million. Or you could just say, I've received the $1 million, received the $1 million, received the $1 million. And you do it with urgency. You don't need to speak it out loud. You can speak it in your mind if people around you sitting down. And you might say it for 5-6 minutes, and you might start doing something else. You're doing cooking or something, and you kind of forgot. And then you bring your thoughts back. Then again, received $1 million, received $1 million. And then once you've done that, you do it for day 1, day 2, day 3, all day long, all day strong. Day 4, day 5, and then by this time, day 5, you're close to getting your desire now. It's not like it's going to happen in 2 years' time. Once you've done that, you've done it enough times, you have impressed your mind with the law of assumption enough times. This is a biblical law, by the way. This always happens. This is not a by-the-by law of attraction that, you got to raise your vibration and then something will change. It's nothing to do with vibration or frequencies. This you have applied the law of assumption, and as even Neville Goddard says, that you live in the end, live in that state, and you're living in the state where you're saying that you received the $1 million, or you received your new car, or you received your husband that you desire, and he's, everything that you desire, he's loving, he's kind, he's prosperous, takes care of you, all of those things. And then once you've done that enough times, you've now cemented what didn't appear to be true. You now cemented it into a truth. So, you may not see the results in day 1. You may not see day 2. So don't get discouraged if you don't see results. Day 3, maybe no results day 3. Maybe day 4, no results. Still don't get discouraged. Continue with it until the money pops in the bank, or somebody gives you that money, or somebody hands you the car, or you get your spouse. You don't stop until that happens. And if you do it that way, there is no reason why you can't get it. Now, yesterday I was in the gym, and I wanted to tell you an experience that really occurred to me, and I was like really fascinated with it. And I thought, wow, this is absolutely true. This is what it is. And I was doing my running on my treadmill, and it kind of I was looking outside, and there was this big lamppost with about 3 lamps on it. And when I looked at it, and I was like, oh yeah, something just, like it's almost like the my Holy Spirit speaking to me and saying to me, see that lamppost? That lamppost gives light to all the people that come underneath it. You got to draw yourself. You're going to draw, with your light, you're going to draw people to yourself, draw your desire to yourself. And I thought, wow, yeah, that's true. Because Jesus said that I will be lifted up and I will draw all men towards me. Remember, he was lifted up on some kind of a stake, some kind of a cross, or maybe some kind of a tree even. And he said that if I will be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me. See, so Jesus is actually talking about your desires. He's talking about what you want in life. And he continuously, he even said that you're the light of the world. Well, if you're a lamppost, let's say if you're a lamppost physically, what do? You give light to everybody who's underneath you. Everybody that passes by you gets that light. They don't question the light. They don't say, oh, there's no light over here. They see the light. They benefit from the light. Anybody that's under a lamppost with, 3 or 4 lamps on it, that's how this, where I am, where this city has this 3-4 lamps on a lamppost. And I was like, wow, yeah, that's true. If I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me. So what are all men? They're all light as well. So in this way, this is not talking about some kind of a salvation issue, or you're gonna put you into heaven or things like that. It's actually talking about you are gonna meet your desire when you lift it up. Lift up. Remember, lift up. Because God said to us, do not lift up your heart. meaning that don't lift up your heart in the wrong way for wrong things. God, also told Moses to lift up the rod, lift up the rod of the serpent snake. And he also lift up the serpent snake. And he said, all men that will look at it will be healed. Now, metaphorically speaking, this bronze snake in book of Numbers in the Torah, chapters 21:9, says Moses made a bronze snake and put it up on a pole. Then when anyone was bitten by a snake and looked at the bronze snake, they were healed, or they lived. They healed, right? So he lifted up that bronze snake. So anything that you want in your life, this is actually this is a mystical side to it, that when you lift up your desire, you're gonna bring it in. So remember, when we speak it constantly, we are lifting it up. We are magnifying it. That is priority for us. And when we made this priority, we're gonna manifest that desire. There's no other way but for that desire to come. This is the law of the Bible. This is the law of the Torah. This is also the law in the New Testament. This law must happen. There is no, my mood is not right. I am sad. I am angry, I am happy. Moods don't matter in this. The law must occur. The law must happen. There's a law of propulsion. When a plane goes, to lift off, when it's going to lift off on a takeoff, the plane goes so fast and the law of propulsion comes into motion and the plane gets lifted off by that law. There is no other law. The plane can't just stop and hold, come to a halt. Boom. You can't do that. Because the law of propulsion says that you have to lift off. So the plane lifts off, boom, away it goes. The same way, the law of gravity, something up in the air, it must come down. That is the law. It does not stop there. It doesn't say, today the law of gravity is not going to work because I'm sad. Today the law of gravity is not going to work because I'm happy or because, I'm indifferent. It doesn't matter what mood swings you're in. If you apply the law, it must happen. So remember, persist in your assumption. It is not the law of attraction where you have to get the right mood and get the right vibration and then maybe something will change. And the law of attraction doesn't work for many people. It's a failure for many people. Why? Because there's too many ifs and buts and ands and do this for 50 million times and you will get it. That is a 50-50 game. It doesn't always work. People get frustrated with it. People don't want to, script all day long and all week strong. People get fed up with scripting all week and all month and all year. But, only the few persist. So again, there's no scripting involved in this. There is no speaking out loud involved in this. You can just speak it in your mind, but you have to persist. It does require you to persist. If you can do that, you'll do great works. You'll receive great. All you got to do is apply your affirmations. Read them out loud. Loud means that to yourself, of course. When I say loud, I mean to yourself. You could be in a busy public place, but still speaking them to yourself. But if you're completely alone and you don't speak them out, then you're welcome to do so. So this is what you do. You say to yourself like this: my manifestations come quickly. I'm a great manifester. I received $1 million. I'm a great manifester. My manifestations come quickly. I received $1 million. Or I received my new car. My manifestations come quickly. I'm a great manifester. I received my new car. I received my new job. I received my new spouse. Or if you have a relationship issue, our relationship is wonderful. My husband is great. Or my wife is great. We have a beautiful relationship. Those kind of things, if you apply it, there's no reason why you won't get it. This is a given. Regarding food, regarding oils, and I think that I would probably end it at this and keep it nice and short. Tada. Thank you. Over to you, Rabbi Kefa.
Okay, yeah, literally, yeah, I just unplugged that. Yeah, thank you, computer. Now it should be crystal clear. I might need to turn down the volume, with my awesome voice that I do have. So sometimes it's important that we do get selfish, and selfish is not a bad thing. How many of you understand that? There's nothing wrong with being selfish. There's nothing wrong with you being selfish and wanting things in your life and not, looking at, trying to please everybody else. How many of you have been through that stage in your life where you spent majority of your energy trying to make sure somebody else was happy besides yourself, thinking that, okay, if they're happy, then I'm going to be happy. In some instances that does work, because I tell you, if my wife is happy, if my wife is happy, I'm going to be happy. Eddie's Tennis said, now I know, to help others, we must help ourselves and make ourselves strong first. Eddie's, that's spot on. Well said, Eddie's. Eddie's 10, that is spot on. Atara says, can please everyone? Yeah, exactly. Can please everyone. Want to please everyone, want to make sure everybody around you and your circle of influence, your family member, you want to make sure that everybody just likes you. And I'm going to, pinch yourself right now. Understand this. That's not reality. That thought process and that conditioning and that mindset is really not reality. Because we live in a society where, people just not going to like you just because you. Some people, I'm telling you, some people are not going to like you because you have straight hair. Some people are not going to like you because you're short. Some people are not going to like you because you're tall. Some people are not going to like you because of the color of your skin. Newsflash. Some people are not going to like you because of the food that you eat. Or some people are not going to like you because of the kind of clothes that you wear. You're going to run into these kind of situations to where, some of these things you're going to realize, and, I know you all have matured, and my family's totally mature, and you realize that, what? Some of these things I'm just not going to be able to change. They're out of my control to change. I can't change the color of my skin. No disrespect to you, Michael Jackson, but I can't change the color of my skin. You can change the texture of your hair if you go through many different procedures. It can be done. You can change the texture of your hair, but, who wants to sit here and run through hoops to try to please everybody else besides ourselves? And, that was big revelation coming to me that really just changed my whole world when I realized that I could really just focus on myself. That's beautiful, right? When you can focus on yourself and really get to love yourself. That's a lot of people have a lot of issues because they don't even know themselves. That's the problem. They have no relationship with themselves, or they have a relationship with themselves, but it's a negative relationship. You know what I mean? It's a negative relationship to where they see themselves in a negative light. And I see that all the time. You get these magazines with these supermodels on the front of them or, modeling clothes and stuff. I know all of you look through these magazines, right? And you look through these magazines and you look at them, and these women, they look like, they haven't had a steak in a couple of days, and they put their finger in their mouth to try to lose weight to fit in these particular clothes that they're trying to model, that they're trying to sell to the masses. Now, understanding that the masses don't look like these people in these magazines. You know what I mean? And you get that sort of, they try to uphold, and I'm so happy that they're coming out with these types of magazines that deal with, full-figured women and all these other magazines that are more realistic, more real to the populace. You know what I mean? And not putting you in these, okay, well, I can't, there's no way, one day I want to look like that, one day. And you put all your energy on looking like that. And, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with being skinny or small or however you want to be, but be happy with yourself. Love yourself for who you are. How many of you had the opportunity to look at any of the 2020 Olympics? Anybody? Anybody watch any bits of it? Anybody? Anybody had the opportunity to look at any little bits of it? Well, I was watching some of it last night, and I was like, I think it was the women, they were throwing this, I guess it's like a ball hooked to a string, a long rope. I mean, even see, but I was watching it. I don't know if it's from the past Olympics or this one, but it was on YouTube. But I just happened to be watching it. But the women, isn't the discus a tar? But it has it's a ball and it's attached to a rope, and they hang on to one end of it with a handle, and they spin around and throw it. I don't know what that's called. But anyway, I was watching that, and I don't know if it was from this year or previous years, but the woman that won, she was from America. But I was watching all of them go through it. You know, some of them wasn't even getting it out in the field because it was hitting the fence. You know, you spin it around and then you got to throw it. You got to release it, the handle at the precise moment. But anyway, I was watching. I'm like, man, you know, I'm thinking about this in 2020 Olympics, 2021 Olympics in general. I mean, you look at this and you say, wow, you know, remember we talked about last Shabbat how everybody has a story. Everybody has a story, whether it's a good one or a bad one. But you look at it and you say, man, you know, what did it take for all these people to get to where they are? You know what I mean? To get to the point to where they're at this stage. And I get all of them have a story. And there's one lady that she was from America when she was throwing that thing, and she actually won. But she talked about, they were telling about a little bit about her story, how she goes into schools and stuff, and she talks about, well, you know, be happy with yourself. Don't let people, she said, I was all kind of shapes. I was small, I was big, and I was super big. And she goes and talks about, you know, just be comfortable with yourself, love yourself. And she ended up winning, and, you know, she was the one that ended up winning the gold medal and throwing that thing in the women's category. I was like, wow, Baruch Hashem. What a great story. Because, you know, everyone at the end of the day has a story. You know, and that brings me to what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about history. When I say history, what does that mean to you? When I say history, what does that mean to you, Ms. Fall? Anybody? I mean, tell me, what does history mean to you? Because believe it or not, you're writing history right now. A Torah says the past. What does history mean to you? When I say the word history, stories and lessons, Eddie's 10, what does history really mean to you? You know, when I say history? Because right now you are a product of history and you are making history. You are creating history. And if you're not careful, some of you are reliving history. I heard one of my mentors say this, and I thought this was a good way to put it. He said, a lot of people say history repeats itself. How many of you have heard that statement? Put up a capital H. If you heard somebody say this or you heard that. History repeats itself. How many of you ever heard that? My father hung on to his bell bottoms, and they sure came back into style. Because there's many times I wanted to put them bell bottoms in the trash. I wanted to, you know, put them up for resale. You know, he had them all with the little decorations on the ends of them and all that. Some of you know what I'm talking about. And I was like, man, why don't we just put these up Goodwill or, you know, sell them at the flea market or something? He's like, no, I'm hanging on to these bell bottoms, man. Sure enough, they came back into style. So when they say history repeats itself, I really can't, that statement doesn't really jive with me, but this one does. Listen to the way this mentor put this. He said, history doesn't repeat itself, but history rhymes. I'm going to say that again. History rhymes. If you know what I'm talking about, if that kind of resonates with you, put up an R. History doesn't repeat itself, but history sure does rhyme. Has a rhyme to it, has a little jingle to it. It may not repeat itself the exact same way, but it'll have a little rhyme to it, you know. History doesn't repeat itself, but history sure does rhyme. I was like, yeah, I like the way you said that. Yael woman on 10 says, could he still fit in them? If they came back in the style, he sure could. Matter of fact, they baggy on him. You know, because Pops done lost some weight. You know, Pops, you know, he's slimming down. I don't know why. You know, slimming down, you know, but yeah, he could actually still fit him. You know what I'm saying? Now, the platform shoes, that's another story. That's another story for another day, you know, the platform shoes. But yeah, he can get in the bell bottoms, man, no problem. No problem. She said, I'm done. But you see, you know, so history has a rhyme to it. History has a rhyme to it. Now, when we look at this Parsha Akiv, here we go again. Moses on his, you know, last days on this earth, in this life, Moses says, you know what? I'm going to give you guys another history lesson. I'm going to explain these things to you. True Joy Ministries haven't clarified what is history. Okay, well, what is history to you, True Joy Ministries? Because I'll take you to what dictionary.com says history is, and listen to this, to top of your responses, by the way. History.com says the definition of history is the study of past events, particularly in human affairs. Wow, the study of past events, particularly in human affairs. And get this, it goes on further to elaborate on that and say, history is the whole series of past events connected to someone or something. Now, I'll ask you this. Why is history important? I did ask that earlier, right? Why is history important? Well, I'm asking it now. Why is history important? And dictionary.com goes on to say the whole series of past events connected to someone or something. Is that important? To know a whole series of past events connected to someone or something? Is that important to you? Is that important to me? I submit to you, yes, it's important, right? I believe it is. I truly do believe it's important. It's important to study past events, right? Like some of you said in your responses, and, stories of the past. Is that not important? Stories of the past? Let's talk. Very important, right? That's important. But there's a catch to this. Moses was doing the same thing with the children of Israel on his way out. He was explaining to this generation about the first generation, about the history of the first generation. He wasn't sitting here, lollygagging and, singing Kumbaya. He was like, look, let's go back and let's revisit history. Is there anything wrong with revisiting history? I submit to you, not. I wrote some things down. Is there anything wrong with reviewing history? Is there anything wrong? Ask yourself this. Is there anything wrong with you reviewing your history? Absolutely not. Is there anything wrong with you revisiting your history? Absolutely not. Is there anything wrong with you remembering your history? Absolutely not, Mishpachah. But what I want to caution you of is this, is reliving past history. You see, a lot of people, they'll remember it, they'll revisit it, they'll review it, but they'll try to live the past. And they're stuck in that live the past mode. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. There's people that are like that. And they can't get on, and they can't see the road for the trees because they're stuck in the past. And somebody wrote that in, talked about the future. That's important. You got to move on. You cannot pitch your tent in the past and be successful. You can't do that. But you do need to understand that if you're not careful, you reliving that past is just you playing that same rhyme. It's going to rhyme again. History going to come back and rhyme to you. Yeah, Papa was a Rolling Stone. Guess what? You turned out to be a Rolling Stone and a baby daddy to many, 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 many babies out there. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. Well, you seem to hop to and fro. You see, history has a way of rhyming if you're not careful. If you're not willing to do what dictionary.com said, is to take history and study the past events. Why? Why you want to study? Why would you want to study the past events? So that you can learn from them? How about that? You study so that you can learn from them, not to go back and relive them. I mean, how many of you want to go back and relive the Atlantic slave trade? Any hands? Not me. How many of you want to go back and relive slavery here in North America? Not me. Not me. I never picked a piece of cotton in the days or tobacco in the days of my life, and I don't intend to. I go and get my cotton at Target, at the Walmart, at the Nordstroms, at the J.C. Penney's. That's where I go get my cotton from. You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to. I don't want to relive that. At the Macy's, there you go, Torah. That's where I'm going to get my cotton. And believe me, I'm not picking it. I'm picking out shirts and slacks, Brooklyn and shorts, and some socks, and some underoos. But I'm not picking cotton. Literally. So we must guard ourselves and be very careful. And this is what Moses was continuing to teach the Hebrews here. Look, let me tell you about that first generation. Let me tell you about everything they went through. Not to scare you, not to prevent you from being successful and pressing on in the future of the, with these future vows and goals that are attainable and will be attained if you're willing to listen and learn from the past. Don't remake the past. This is what Moses is teaching the Hebrews. Look, don't go back and try to remake the past here, because listen, study history and then learn from history so that you don't make the same mistakes, right? We don't want to make the same mistakes, do we? We want to learn from history, learn from our forefathers, learn from our matriarchs and patriarchs so that we don't make the same mistakes again. That's so very important. Jeremiah 6:16. True Joy Ministries, that's a beautiful, beautiful. I quote that verse often. Very, very, very much often. Thus said the Lord, stand ye in the ways and see and ask for the old paths, where the good way, and walk therein, and you shall find rest for your souls. Hey, True Joy Ministry, you ought to read that from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible and the Hidden Truth Hebraic Scrolls. Stand, and then when you begin to break the old paths down, I wouldn't really call them old paths. When you translate that, you realize that they're the forever ways. The ancient ways is how we have it in the Abrahamic-Faith Bible. Ask for the ancient ways. For those are, you see, old seems, old people, some people take old in the wrong way. You know what I mean? Oh, you old. So what does that mean? Decrepit, broke down to a lot of folks. To me, you know what old means? Old means wisdom to me. And see, this is why, a lot of people misunderstand, you see. Old means ancient. Old means wisdom, wise. Baruch Hashem. Just like wine. How many of you want to drink a new wine or you want to drink an old wine? Man, Eddie's, I'm going to get this wine cellar that's just going to be a killer. I got me a little wine refrigerator now, but I'm talking about a wine cellar. Well, I'm going to go down there every month and just turn my wine every month for 10 years and just turn my little bottles and let them just age. And then I'm going to make this nice steak, some filet mignon, and I'm going to go down to my cellar and I'm going to just open up one of them bottles, man, that's just been sitting down there for about 12 to 13 years. And have a nice meal with my wife. You see what I'm talking about? So, to me, old is good. But a lot of people see old today as like, oh man, that's you old, man. You're not connected with the news, so you know what? You don't have any say here because you're not caught up with the times. When that's totally the wrong kind of mindset to have. But a lot of people see old as bad. You don't believe me? Let's just look at the Bible, for instance. Look at the Bible for a minute. Most people have Bibles in their house, and the first thing that they'll say is, let me get to that New Testament. I'm going to study and I'm going to learn from the New Testament. But many folks don't like to get connected with the Old Testament. Why? It's because they say, old is what? That's old. That's not, you're not hip. You're not connected with the times. That's stale. Oh, it's like eating old bread. You know what I mean? It's got mold on it, and you don't want to eat it. See, that's how they think, you see. But I'm all about those forever ways of our forefathers. The ancient paths, Baruch Hashem, as is read in the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, the Hidden Truth Hebraic Scrolls. Mold is penicillin, right? Indeed, Baruch Hashem, Ya'el woman of 10. So, again, that's how folks look at it. That's how they think. And so we have to have the mindset of, okay, let me look at history. Let me look at the past events that have happened in my life. Let me look at my history. Let me look at my upbringing. And let me study it and learn from it. So that way, when I have children going forward, I can make some necessary adjustments that I want to make. Or I can embrace and keep some of those, some of that past experience and pass it on to my sons and my sons' sons and my daughters and my daughters' daughters. You know what I mean? Look at it that way, but don't paralyze yourself. Don't cripple yourself by pitching a tent in the past and your past history. You're saying, well, and just like Cohen was saying in his lecture, well, I've always been told I'm not going to be nothing. My mother and them, they always struggled. Mama and them always struggled trying to pay the bills and make $1 out of 15 cents. So just because they did it, you don't have to be connected to that part of your past. Study, learn from it, and then what? Make that change. Then you know what you do? Then you remake your history. You take your history and you propel it forward. Hakohen talked about propulsion, jet propulsion, and then you propel it forward, and then you birth a new Baruch Hashem. You birth a new experience. I wouldn't say you create one or you make one, but you call a new experience, a new history to you. You call it to you. Because it's already out there. People have already got it. All you got to do is call it to you too. Call it to you. And Hakohen Baruch Hashem has given us the techniques to call it to us. I mean, if you want to call it to you, you don't have to birth it. You definitely don't have to create it. It's already there. Just call it to you. Call it to you. You got to make yourself recognizable. It's got to recognize you. Oh, yeah, I see you over there. Over there in America, oh, I got you. In that particular, yeah, I see you over there in Denver. I got you. I see you in Florida. I'm coming to you. Keep calling. Remember me. That's what it's saying. Remember me. That's why Cohen just said in his lecture. You got to pound it in yourself every day. Pound it in yourself, man. Keep it in your memory. But what do most people remember? They remember in the past. Oh man, I remember when that girl broke up with me. And you sit here and you got J-Lo right in front of you. But what are you doing? Oh, I remember how that girl hurt me in the past. But you got J-Lo sitting right next to you, man. You need to get that out of your memory. And look at what do you have now? And going forward to your future. Man, it's J-Lo now. Yeah, I sure did learn a lesson from how that girl hurt me in the past. I learned from that. I'm studying that. But I done moved forward from that because I got J-Lo sitting next to me. I got Denzel with me now. You know what I mean? Or whoever it is, for you women and you men. I don't know how y'all roll, but I'm just putting people out there that are popular and seem to be famous and all that, and gorgeous and handsome and beautiful and just, so fine that you want to drink their bathwater. So that's what you look at, and you say, man. So you look at your past. You look at your past events, good or bad. Because that's just what Moses did. Moses wasn't sitting there, just giving the children of Israel all the good. No, he said, look, let me explain to you the bad that happened too with that first generation. Let's look at that from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible or the Hidden Truth Break Scrolls. Let's examine that. I'm going to read from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible. I'm going to read from Deuteronomy chapter 8, starting at verse 1. All the commandments which I command you this day, that you shall observe to do, that you may live and exceedingly increase and go in and possess the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers. We talked about the land rights issue last Shabbat. Just because we're not in the land today, we still in somebody's land right now. All of you are. And contrary to popular belief, these particular statutes and judgments and promises still apply in the land where you are right now. Still apply. How many of you want to exceedingly increase in North America, exceedingly increase in France? It still applies. Exceedingly increase in China, exceedingly increase in Pakistan, still applies. You don't have to wait on this. That's one of the biggest misconceptions out there. Oh, I got to wait for my blessing. No, you don't. So like Cohen taught us in his lecture, blessing is right. Now is blessing. I am blessing. So what am I waiting for something? What do I do in the meantime, in between time, while I'm so-called waiting? You know what I mean? No, blessing is now. You are blessing. You are blessing, but you got to see that. Folks, folks like to hang on to participation, to anticipation, anticipating something that, is going to happen in the future. And unfortunately, that's kind of how we've been conditioned over here in the West, is to anticipate the future. No, you need to anticipate the now, because the future for you is now. But that's revelation to a lot of folks that they just can't grab hold of. They can't grab hold of that kind of revelation. And Moshe was telling that second generation, boy, he was getting hyped up. He was like, yeah, you're going to go in here and you can read it. You can read it. And he was like telling them, look, this is what the God of Israel done for his people. And he did this. And they walked and their souls never ran out. It kind of reminds me of some of these preachers, these Baptist preachers, and their souls never ran out. And they sweat, boy. And they got to tell, and you walked on land. I like how they do it. And you walked on a dry land. And he split the sea of reeds. And I can hear all the Hebrews, that second generation. Ooh, yeah, preaching, Moses, preaching, tell us. And just getting them hyped up. They say, oh, hold up, wait a minute. But then they also had many failures. Let me tell you about your past. You see, because we can't candy coat this. Just like you may have had many failures as you see them in your past. I chalk them up as experiences, by the way. Had some great experiences, good and bad. But I'm not a failure. And I don't associate myself with failing. I just learn. I win and I learn. I win and I learn. I win and I learn. And I keep doing that. That's my mindset. That's my mentality, though. I win and I learn. Well, what am I going to learn today? Where am I going to win today? And I anticipate that every day. I don't anticipate that somewhere by and by in the future. I anticipate that every day and night. I anticipate to win because I'm a winner. I anticipate to learn because I'm learning. And I'm constantly learning. And I'm constantly evolving. Baruch Hashem. And that's what Moses was explaining to the second generation that was going to see the land flow. Boy, he began to explain the land flowing with milk and honey to them, and they were like, wow. But let's keep reading because from Deuteronomy chapter 8, because I am exceedingly increased in the Most High. Baruch Hashem. And I'm not waiting on it. That's now. A lot of people can't grasp that because they want to hang on to something in the future that they can attain to, and they think the future's going to come to them. No, you got to go to your future, and you got to bring your future to you. What do we talk about? You got to call your future to you. How you want your future to be? You got to call it to you. But you know what? Guess what a lot of folks are doing? They're calling their past to them. Sad to say, but it's true, right? As students of human nature, I see this. Folks are calling their past to them. Let me tell you how they do it. Yeah, I'm never going to get another relationship because that last woman broke my heart. You see how they call the past to them? They call that past, and that's what they're doing. And what comes to them? The past just keeps coming in their face. And that's what they see. And they have tea parties with the past. It's always in their face. The past, why? It's because that's all they think about. I wrote something down. I want to read this to y'all that I wrote, a little statement. Where is that statement at? I wrote it down because it really just stuck. Oh, in the moment. You see, the in the moment for some folks is the past. Their in the moment is the past. And the heartbreaks and the hiccups and the depression and the lack of money and just the lack of happiness, the lack of joy, the lack of peace and the lack of love. Because those are the baseline settings for humanity, Mishpah. I don't care what religion you affiliate yourself with. When you begin to understand and put religion to the side and begin to connect to you see, understand this. We are humans and we're beings. That's why they say we're human beings, right? You connected to your human side, but a lot of people, Mishpah, and you know this, family, they're not connected to the being side. They're not connected to their being. Who you want to be. What do you want? They only focus on the human side. Well, how do I please humanity? What do I need to do? No. Look, you need to be connected to your being side. Well, how do I please myself? How do I give myself peace, love, joy and happiness. What gives me joy? What gives me peace? These are questions very few people ask themselves, but they ask other people so that they can please other people, but they don't ask themselves that so they can please themselves. What pleases me? They don't do that. So when we look at history, look at it to study it so we can learn from it, not to live there, not to pitch a tent there, because we want to be in the moment of now. And what do I want? That's the moment I'm in. I want to be in the moment of now, what I want now. And I see what I have in the future, and I visualize it, and I script it, and I meditate on it, and I bring it to my now, and I call it in now. That's my moment. Reality is what it is. Reality is what you call into yourself. This is why we're told in our holy books that we have to guard and be careful of the words that come out of our mouth. Because then that will create, that will call in our now. You say you're depressed, guess what you're going to be? You done called in a healthy portion of depression. And it's coming in because that's what you called in. And you get it? Well, I'm so overwhelmed. Well, guess what you done called in? A healthy dose of overwhelm. I'm just so depressed. Well, guess what you done called in? You see where I'm going with it? But that's just what it is in a nutshell. And a lot of people can't understand that because they can't get off the religious road. You got to get off the road of religion. That road will leave you with all kind of emotions. And all kind of imaginations to where you can never really connect with your being. Because your human side was, well, I gotta fit in with one of these groups. No, you don't. The only thing you have to fit in is yourself. What do you fit in with yourself? Well, I never thought about that. I never really put any energy into doing that. That's where all your energy needs to be. Remember the past. Shabbat is a great time for us to remember our past, to rest, to relax, to remember, to rejuvenate, to recall. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 2. And you shall remember all the way which Yahweh your power led you these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you, to prove you, to know what was in your heart, whether you would guard his commandments or not. Oh, my goodness. That's a 7-course meal right there, that verse, right? But Moses went on to tell the children of Israel, or the Hebrews what? That you shall remember. Yeah, remember the past. Go back and remember it. Remember your past. That's a good thing to do. That's healthy, by the way. You as a human being, you have a lot of history just embedded within you. And it's totally good to remember it. It's totally good to review it. But you're in the moment. And I would challenge you this next 6 days of labor to really assess your in the moment. Because whether you believe it or not, your mind is working. And it's always thinking about something. These next 6 days of labor, really pay attention to what your mind is thinking about. Don't let your mind wander, because it'll wander if you don't put it in whatever moment you want to put it in. In the moment of success, in the moment of happiness, in the moment of love, in the moment of joy, in the moment of peace, in the moment of money, in the moment of love, in the moment of relationship. You got to put your mind in check, because if not, it'll wander on you. How many of you know your mind will wander on you? Y'all woman can say, yeah, sometimes I have to tell my mind to shut up. Indeed. Or you know what I like to say? I say this to myself too, I say redirect. When my mind starts to want to wander somewhere, I say redirect. This is not even happening. I have a 2-story home. And my son, Nakshan, 2 years old, I mean, going to be 2 in September. Man, he loved to go up them stairs, man. By himself. He's so independent. You know how they are at that age. Just so independent. Nakshan, he likes to go up them stairs by himself. And I have to keep telling him, Nakshan, don't go up these stairs by yourself. Bad things can happen. You can fall down and it can really be detrimental to your health. So every time I hear his little pitter-patter feet going up them stairs, I run to the stairs and I grab him. I pick him up and I say, no, Nakshan, don't go up them stairs. So I'm teaching him that. You know, the baby, you know, the little baby fence and stuff, man, that's just, you know, Nakshan, my neighbor, you know what my neighbor calls Nakshan? He calls Nakshan, Samson. He said, that boy is so strong. He said, I know his name is Nakshan, but I call him Samson. I was like, Nakshan takes the baby fence and puts it to one side, and before you know it, he's going up the steps and blah, blah, blah. You know, he's up the steps, he's up the steps, he's up the steps. But my mind, you know, my mind wants to begin to play these thoughts of Nakshan falling down them steps and breaking his neck. Redirect, baby. I'm redirecting that. So I got to redirect my mind because my mind want to go to places of bad experiences occurring. You see what I'm saying? And if you're not careful, and I mean, this is real subtle stuff. If you're not focused on, you know, controlling your mind is going to wander on you and take you places that are not healthy. How many of you know what I'm talking about? I just gave you an example about Nakshan and the stairs, but I mean, your mind will take you places. So you got to redirect. I say redirect. And then I just paint that beautiful picture of my son just growing up and he's climbing those stairs and he has no, you know, I just flipped the script. I changed the whole scene up in my mind. And I comfort my mind. Because, I mean, understand, your mind needs to be comforted sometimes. Man. Your mind want to take you to some drastic, just downright dirty, nasty, stanky, just negative places. But know what? You got to redirect and you got to comfort your mind and say, look, everything going to be all right. I'm going to tell you, just like Bob Marley said, every little thing is going to be all right. Let's not even worry about the big things. Don't worry about a thing. Right, Bob Marley? In your spirit. I'm not worried about a thing. How many of you know that song by Bob Marley? I'm telling you. So we got to redirect that stuff, man. Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing going to be all right. Redirect. See where I'm going? Then, because if you don't, man, your mind will begin to create a story. And before you know it, you're worried about something that you don't have to be worried about. I'm telling you. And it's like, my goodness, what a waste of energy when I could have been focused in the moment on positivity and calling that money to me. You see, when the mind redirects you, you know, all these affirmations and things that you want, they put on hold and you forget to call them to you. Because you got a whole nother script, you got a whole nother story in front of you that's being revealed. And you're like, man, what a waste of energy. I'm going to tell you, true story. Just the other day, I went to get, you know how you got to get your car. Here in Texas, we got to get our cars inspected, and they put the sticker on your car. You got to get it done annually, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Anyway, I'm going to get my Ford. Old Red, Old Faithful. Man, I'm going to get old Ford. Say Ford. I say, hey, I call her Red. Red, we got to go get inspected, Red. And, you know, Red has been tried, tested, and proven. And I use Red to go to my jobs because, you know, I'm doing home nursing, so I'm going to homes, man. For the majority of my life, I go to homes. So Red is dependable. Red is faithful and true. And so I tell Red, we're going to get this inspection. And then my mind starts telling me, man, you know Red going to fail that inspection. They ain't going to pass Red. Half the time, Red's horn don't work. And, you know, this, that, the other, the third. And you know what? Redirect. I flipped the whole scene. And this is on the way to the place to go get it inspected. I flipped the whole screen, Miss Bahar. I went in there and I changed the whole story up in my mind, and I had Red passing with flying colors, everything on Red working fine. And I tell you, get this, I go in there, you know, you got to go through give me your insurance and blah, 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 you know. And so he's checking everything out, lights and all that, and, you know, brakes and all this. And then, you know, and I circulate the money to, you know, to pay for the thing. And then the guy, he didn't even ask about honking the horn. Normally you got to honk the horn. And then he didn't ask about honking the horn until after, get this, until after I get the paper, the certification, and, circulated the monies. Then he goes, hey, by the way, you don't mind honking your horn? I said, sure, sir. I gave old Red a honk, and boy, she honked like no honk on a car. I was like, Baruch Hashem. You see, I had changed the whole story up because my mind had me going in there, and Red fell in the test because Red is old. But the way my mind sees old is not the way my being sees old. I see old as being ancient and true and wise beyond the years. Baruch Hashem. That's how I see old. But do you see little just events like that, moments like this that happen and occur in your daily living? These things are going to happen and they're going to occur. You have to know how to deal with them from your being point. That mind and that heart thing, man, you got to put them in their place, man. You got to put them in their place. Because if you don't, they're going to run over you. And then you'll be phoning into us. Oh, Rabbi, he broke my heart. Or she broke my heart. That boss that I thought loved me, he turned around, he hated me, and I broke my heart. And he told me I was going to have a 20-year tenure here. Now he had to furlough me because the business is cutting back. Oh, I'm so heartbroken. In the moment. Where are you going to put yourself in your moment? That's what you have to decide for yourself. Don't be dictated. How many of you at one time, you were dictated and bamboozled by your heart or your mind? You was under mind control, and those two things just controlled your every movement. I can tell you, I was hoodwinked and bamboozled, man, and just being like a puppy on a leash. I'm just being tugged over the head. Then I got the revelation from my Kohen that, man, wait a minute. These are tools that the Most High has in place with, imparted within each and every individual for us to use. To do what? Just like Moses said, to increase exceedingly there in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 1. Because I am increasing exceedingly. You know what I mean? Oh, by the way, Eddies, you may not want to sleep on TLT. Look for that baby to come down and come down hard. So you may want to look into some TLT, baby. So it's going to come down hard. Just wait for it. It's going to come down hard and fast. There's a lot of things going on in the world right now, but it's going to come down hard and fast. Look to add that to your portfolio. Short it. I am. I'm not putting out any kind of advice or blah, blah, blah. I'm not here to give you any kind of investment advice, but just pay attention to that one. That's going to be one to look at. TLT coming down, in my opinion. So we have to consider these things going forward. Is that we have to find our particular state. Look at our history. We all have a history. Look at it, examine it, remember it like the Torah tells us. Remember it. Remember our history so that we can what? We can learn from it. Not relive it, but learn from it. So that we can what? We can call in our now, our future, our now, and just continue to call in the desires of our hearts. Other people have. They've called in money. They've called in relationships. They've called in peace and love and joy. Why can't you? You're just the same. You have the same capability to do so. But it requires you taking charge of your in the moment. Because you do need to be in the moment. That's very important. So Moses tells the Hebrews there in Deuteronomy chapter 8 verses 2 that they should remember. But look what he goes on further to say. Look in verse 3 there of Deuteronomy chapter 8. And he humbled you and suffered you to hunger and fed you with manna. Wow. Which you knew not. Neither did your fathers know. That he might make you know that man shall not live by lechem, by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh will man live. That's heavy. Kind of reminds me, in my recall, total recall, by the way, that Yeshua ben Yosef made that same statement that came out of the Torah, didn't he? And what they call the renewed contract, the renewed covenant, or the New Testament, the Brit, however you want to call it. But by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh shall man shall not live by bread alone. What a healthy, happy, humbling statement. Shall not live by bread alone. Yet they take that statement and they use it. Christianity uses it. They don't reconnect it back to the Torah because they say the Torah's old. It's done away. It's old. But Yeshua ben Yosef, Jesus of Nazareth, he used that statement. They came right out of the Torah. You shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh shall man live. But by every word that proceeds out of your mouth, that's how you're going to live. And is that not true? Are you not living by the statements that are coming out of your mouth? That's so true. So what do we need to do? We need to readjust the statements that are coming out of our mouths. It seems so simple that it's hard, Mishpah. But there needs to be some statement, what? Readjustment. You can't sit there and say, well, man, that first generation sure didn't make it in. Maybe we're not going to make it in either. As I look at the past, why? Because that's the kind of thought process of people that pitched their tent in the past. They stated, oh, man, well, the first generation of Hebrews didn't make it in. What makes you think we're going to make it in? Maybe it'll be the third generation or the fourth generation. And look, Moses is still being a great cheerleader. Look at verse 4 of Deuteronomy chapter 8. Your clothes did not wear out, neither did your feet swell for those 40 years. He breaking down the history. Remember, I told about the old Baptist preacher, and your clothes never wore out, and the soles on your feet never wore. You know how they do. But look, that's what Moses is doing. He's what? He's encouraging the Hebrews. Well, look, this is what the God of Israel did for you. This is what happened in history. Learn from it. That same God is the same God that you serve this day. The God of the Hebrews. If he helped them, he's going to help you too. Look, I'm just putting down I'm going to lay the history out for you. Learn from it. Utilize it to help push yourself forward. Propel you where? Where did the Hebrews want to be propelled to? To the land flowing with milk and honey. But then Moses had to go on and give them a visual presentation of this land flowing with milk and honey. They had to see it. So he goes on to describe what's there. And he tells them, he said, look, I tell you, it's beautiful. Look at it. He goes on to tell them, look at verse 7 of Deuteronomy chapter 8. For Yahweh your power brings you into a good land, a land with brooks of Maim, brooks of water, of fountains. My goodness, we in paradise, baby. You see what Moses is doing? He's helping the Hebrews visualize. You got look, imagine it kind of reminds me, when I saw it kind of reminds me, I don't know how many of you have been to Hawaii or saw pictures of like Hawaii or these paradise islands. It reminds you of these islands, man, and you see these waterfalls coming down this luscious green vegetation, and it's just beautiful, and you imagine it, and it becomes real to you, to where you have an anticipation and a desire to want to be a partaker and be a part of that and to be in that picture, to be in that movie. You are a part of it. And that's what Moses was doing. Moses, the great litigator, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. He's sitting there giving them the yin and the yang. He's giving them the positive, but he's also giving them the negative too, because that is the laws of the universe. You have to have the good with the bad. The question is, how do you deal with both situations? How many of you understand? A lot of people deal bad with good situations. They don't know how to handle it. You know what I'm talking about? A lot of people deal bad with good situations. Let me give you an example. How many of you have heard stories of people winning the lottery and then losing the lottery? You know what I mean? How you gonna win the lottery and then you end up broke and then you ended up filing for foreclosure. You see what I mean? So a lot of people, they can have a good situation, but they can make it bad. I don't know how you win the lottery and end up broke, end up busted and disgusted. I don't get that. That don't comprehend to me, but yet people do. They take a bad situation or a good situation to make it bad, or they can take a bad situation and make it good. But you must understand, yeah, you're right, Atara. That's how it happens. Because let me tell you something about money. Money's energy. Money is good. I was talking to this guy, and I'm going to tell you about this in my closing, but you guys are going to be so happy. I was talking to this guy the other day, and I was telling him that, look, money is not evil. Contrary to what you've been taught in all these religions that you learned from, money is not evil. Money is not a bad thing. Money is a good thing. If money was evil, then you need to go talk to King Solomon. you know what I mean? Money is not evil. It's not evil. There's nothing wrong with money. Nothing wrong with you having money. Nothing wrong with you having a lot of money. There's nothing wrong with you having a little money if a little money makes you happy. Baruch Hashem. Some of you may say, you may be listening on YouTube or listening on Facebook, you may say, wow, why do all these people always talk about money? Money, money, money. Money's energy. We can talk about love. You want to talk about love? What else you want to talk about? Everything in this earth, on this planet, is energy. How do you utilize that energy? You use it for good or bad. Remember we talked about, if you're going to, the laws of the universe say if there's going to be good in this world, then there's also going to be bad. The question is, how do you handle it? How do you deal with those situations when they come to you? That's the number one question right there. So how are you going to deal with it? How are you going to deal with it? How are you going to use it to either benefit you increasingly or to bring you down increasingly? It goes both ways. And Moses, the greatest of all time at everything, was explaining this to the children of Israel. Yeah, there's going to be some bad coming with, but how you going to handle it? How you going to handle the bad? How you going to learn from the experiences of when bad situations happen? I heard one of my mentors say the other day, he said, you may see a wall in front of you, but he said, this is a millionaire, man. He's talking, he's like, what you may see in front of you is a wall. But he said, but you know what I see? He said, I don't see the wall. He said, I'm looking for the cracks in the wall so that I can get through it. I was like, wow. What a great way to think, right? They're like, man, yeah, you may see a wall in front of you. He said, but I see, and I'm looking for the cracks in the wall. I'm not just looking at the wall and giving up. He said, I'm looking to find the cracks in the wall. I was like, Baruch Hashem, what a great way to think. See, that's why you can call things to you. Because the wall is not stopping you from getting those things that you want. Because why? You found the cracks. You're a crack expert. And I don't mean the drug crack, by the way. So don't come to my house, FBI, because I don't mean the drug crack. I'm talking about the cracks in the wall. Most people see the wall and they stop and they give up. But what do you need to do? You need to look for the cracks in the wall. You need to look for those little cracks. And they're always there, but people just see the wall. This is why when you, quote unquote, see these bad things coming your way, look for the good. Look for the cracks. That's the good in it. Because the good is there. And a great lesson is there for you to learn from. But you just have to find it. You have to focus on finding the good and whatever you're going through, because the good is there. There's good in it, man. It's not all so bad, but all your energy is focused on the bad, so that's where all your energy is going. And guess what's standing in your front door? Bad energy. Because that's all you focused on. You called that in. You sat down, like we said earlier, and had a tea party with bad energy. And I know it may be taking a minute for some of you guys to, like Akoy said in his lecture, for some of you guys to see, for the family to kind of see the affirmations fulfilled. But I submit to you this, and I say this, and piggybacking off what Akoy talked about in his lecture, is, yeah, don't focus on the time that it's taken, but I would even go take it even further and tell you to, see the progress that's propelling you to that goal. Now, your jet propulsion may just be like maybe Duracell battery propulsion, but I want you to see the steps see the steps. And I know they're there, but you got to see them. Remember talking about the cracks in the wall? You got to see that you are taking those steps to get you to your ultimate goal, that ultimate desire. This past week, there have been some steps that you have seen, but you got to look for those steps. Some of you just wait for the big boom to just happen. But remember, there's a process, there's steps, and that's what Moses was teaching the Hebrews. He was like, look, I'm paraphrasing, it's taking a minute for you guys to get to the land flowing with milk and honey, but who cares how long it takes you to get there? Because once you're in there, you're looking at those streams, and you're looking at those fountains of ma'im, of water. And who remembers how long it took for you to get that in, right? Who was even thinking about that? When you laid up and you got your corona, and I'm not talking about the virus, but you got your corona beer there, and you got your significant other in your arms, and y'all laid up under a banana tree, and that cool breeze is hitting you while you watching the fountains of Ma'im come down in this land flowing with milk and honey. Baruch Hashem. Who's focusing on? Oh, man. And we wandered in the desert, and we kept wondering, and we was wondering like Stevie Wonder. We was wondering. Who cares about that? Who gives two hoots about that? Why? Because our in the moment is like, look, man, regardless of how long it takes, look, I know there's some steps, and I want you all to see this. I want you to see this. You're making steps towards your ultimate goal. Progress. See the progress. Don't see, well, I'm looking at this time. I'm looking at don't see the calendar. I'm looking at my calendar and it's just, nothing's happening. But there are things that are happening. See the progress. They may be little tiny steps, but see the progress. Because it's there. And then when you recognize the progress, recognize it, acknowledge the progress, say, wow, thank you. Because that's what's going to enable a good relationship between what you desire and bringing it to you. It's not going to come to you if you're nasty and angry at it, right? It's going to come to you if you what? If you acknowledge it, if you're caring about it, if you're comforting it. You know what I mean? That's when it's going to be like, man, I'm attracted to you. Hey, you go on a date, man. You go on a date wearing your most ridiculous clothes, not taking a shower, hair all screwed up, not shaving, and think you're going to have a second date? I submit to you not. That particular woman or man's going to run away from you like no man's business. Yeah, like yesterday's Kool-Aid. So what you want to do is present yourself and having an open dialogue that's conducive to a second date, to attracting that person to you, or that energy or that thing. Because again, at the end of the day, people are energy too. You want to attract that energy to you. So how are you going to do it? By speaking kindly and nice to it. Hey, thank you. I see that. Yeah, this is the next step towards my progression. I mean, did Moses sit there and say, look, you guys, I calculated it. I went to my accountant and we calculated how many steps you actually took in these 40 years while you wandered in the desert? No. Moses said, look, when you were wandering in the desert, your shoes never wore out. Wow, isn't that encouraging? You're like, yeah, that's right. And I said, man, yeah. And we was wondering, and my bunions got bad, and my gout got even worse, and no. He's like, look, your shoes never wore out. He's like, and look, and then you was in the desert and you was hungry, and the God of Israel fed you Hebrews, food that you had never had before in your life. I mean, isn't this beautiful? This is beautiful. Moses is laying all this out. And man, I would be super excited. Be like, yeah, that's right. That would be so motivational to me. Like, man, you know what? Come Shiloh or Sheol, I'm seeing this through. You know what I mean? Adelia, are you with me? He'd be like, and that's how Moses is talking to the Hebrews. He's like, look, man, I'm on my way out, but I'm going to leave y'all with this history. Good, the bad, and the ugly. But guess what? We still here, and the promises still stand. And I submit, and I say that to you this day, that we still here, and the promises still stand. So all we have to do is to stay in that moment, is to see what we read, and we see it. And we don't say, well, I'm just looking at my circumstance. No, see what you want to see. If you want to see a circumstance, then that's just what you're going to see. If your mind is still playing tricks on you, then your mind is still going to play tricks on you. If you're still with a heart condition, you're going to still have that, oh, you're still breaking my heart, Rabbi. No, you need to start thinking with yourself. You need to start thinking with that be inside of you, that being with yourself. That subconscious. And say, no, you know what? What I see in front of me not right now, I'm going to change the whole scene up to where it's going to always work out in my favor. Even though you may be, everything around you may be a disaster. You'll find the good in that disaster. Actually, you'll find the great in that disaster. And that what you consider the disaster is what propelled you to the next phase, that next step, into you meeting your desire, whatever that may be. See the progress, because believe me, every day there's progress. I want you all to say that right now. Every day there's progress in my life. Every single day there's progress in my life. You got to start thinking that way. You got to start feeling that way. You got to feel progress. Man, I feel it, man. Man, this progress feels good, doesn't it? Man, it gets you hyped up, gets you amped up. That's what Moses was doing to the Hebrews. He's like, look, man, y'all seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we still here. Every day there's progress in my life. I'm progressing every single day. I'm getting better and better and better and better. But how can I get better when all this going? See that mind come in. Well, how can I get better when everything's still? No, I keep getting better and better and better. Every day there's progress. I'm progressing. I'm progressing. I'm a child of the Most High. I'm progressing. Look, my ancestors went through worse than what I got to deal with on my plate. I'm progressing. Land flowing with milk and honey is now. Land flowing with milk and honey is now. Land flowing with milk and honey is right now. I'm in paradise right now. That's how you got, and believe me, you can change your whole environment. Man, we went to eat at a restaurant last night. Oh my goodness, man. My favorite restaurant here in town, Chinese restaurant. We go in there and there's these new people there. We sit down and man, I tell you, these people, some of the dullest, just nastiest attitude. Look, you sit down at a table, they come to you like this, Shane, y'all, what do you want? Y'all ready to order? I'm like, what the hell is this, man? I'm like, man, who the hell are these people? I've never seen them. They some new crew, I guess. I don't know. But I go in there and I'm like, man, I'm finna change this whole scene around. I said, you know what? Before this ends, I'm gonna have this whole crew. I'm gonna change their whole environment to where they open up and they talking and they cordial. And sure enough, I changed the whole scene. What did I do? Believe me, Mishpah, this is so true and it's real. You attract more bees with honey than you do vinegar. Well, I start complimenting. I said, man, you guys are awesome. I appreciate it. Hey, thank you. Hey, thank you for, and you know what? We need an extra glass over here, my son. Hey, thank you very much. I so appreciate it. The next time she said, hey, are y'all ready to order? I said, no, we wait on another party to come, but thank you very much. You guys are just totally awesome. And before you know it, at the end, before we left, they were talking to us and thanking us. Hey, thank y'all for coming in. I said, we come here all the time. I see you guys are new. Hey, welcome to the team. This is a great restaurant. You guys are the best Chinese food in San Antonio. I brought my sister. Hey, Shanya, Jennifer's down here. She's with us. I said, I brought my sister from Utah. She's here, and she came all the way from Utah to eat Chinese food here. And but they're like, wow, you're from Utah? Yeah, she's talking to him. I said, I brought my sister I've been telling her about y'all restaurant. I brought her all the way from Utah to come and eat at this restaurant. And they're like, wow. And so again, 6.0, I changed the whole scene. That was from these people. Oh, what do y'all want? How can we help y'all? No thank you. No, none of that. But then at the end, they was like, oh, yeah, hey, thank you guys very much. I say, hey, I appreciate your customer service. Is awesome. You guys are beautiful. And we were always coming back here. My children and my children's children go eat at this restaurant. I didn't get this blessing out of it. They said, yeah, we're getting ready to open up another franchise. And that franchise is near my base. I was like, because to get to this restaurant, I got to drive almost like 45 minutes to get there. One way. Yeah, but it's worth it, Miss Paul. I tell you, there's some of the best it's like eating Chinese food in China. So I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, Baruch Hashem. I said, you guys going to go from success to success, from strength to strength, because your food is excellent. And you're some great people. And they're like, wow. You know what I mean? So, but this is how you change your whole scene. And my Chinese sister said, man, these people are very rude. They're very rude people. I was like, yes, sis, I got this. Don't worry about it. I got this. And they changed. I mean, they giving us extra food all of a sudden. I'm like, but that's what happens. You don't just settle for what the environment. We go in there and we change the whole environment up. I would encourage you all, use this as a case study. Go into somebody's restaurant this week. Go to a restaurant and apply my technique. I'm telling you, it's very powerful. And you'd be like, man, before you know it, the guys are loving you, man. And they want to serve you. Why? It's because you're serving them. It's that yin and that yang. Yeah, you may be bringing it bad, but guess what? I'm bringing exceedingly good your way. Who's going to win? Well, I'm already a winner, so game over, right? You know what I mean? But that's what it is, Miss Bahar. That's how we roll. We're Hebrews, man. We're descendants of the most powerful people. Hadassah Gray says, it works. I've tried it in the past. It does work, Miss Bahar. It does. It truly does work. It does work. Shabbat shalom, Nachan. Nachan just waking up in all his glory. Shabbat shalom, my son. So, it does work. Apply it. And then, it's not only in restaurants. That can be in every area of your life, Mishpah. Every area of your life. You just bring that positive energy to whatever situation that you having to deal with in your history, in your personal experiences. And that's how you rebirth or change, what was done in the past. And put it in that moment, that now moment. So the whole series of past events connected to someone or something that dictionary.coms give for the definition of history, you've changed the whole series. Maybe some things you keep from the past. I know I keep a lot of things from my past, and I carry them forward because those were great lessons that I learned. And I want to apply them in the future. You know what I mean? I don't just discount all of the past. We got to learn from that stuff, man. We totally got to learn from that stuff. And so we must be very careful because what I'm seeing over here, especially with the school system here, I'm looking at the school system now because, Nachan, I'm thinking ahead. Nachan's going to be 2 in September, but, school time is coming up. So I'm looking at these school systems. And you know what I'm seeing, Ms. Brown? I'm like, wow. The school systems now are starting to teach, and this is real subtle, and I want you all to pay attention to this, especially you here in North America. The school systems are now starting to teach anti-white. I don't know if you all notice this, but you all need to pay attention. I don't care what your color is, but I want you all to pay attention to this. Do you understand that they're starting to teach anti-white now? That everything in the past history that was associated with white people is actually wrong. Anybody seen that besides myself? Now, I'm going to give you an example if you don't believe me. I'm going to look at all these statues that they tearing down of these white folks. Ms. Bahar, are you not seeing that? They trying to change history. You can't change history. You can learn from history, right now, Sean? But you can't change history. This man owned some slaves. Who didn't own some slaves? My goodness. I mean, think about it. But they're beginning to teach the students that, okay, the browns and the blacks in North America were done very, very wrong. And we need to rewrite history and say that the white people were wrong and they were evil and they were bad. So now we're going to tear down all these statues. We're going to change the history of. Look, listen, they changing military bases names here in Texas from these people, from white generals that may have done. I mean, and I'm like, man, what the hell? Where we going? What is this all about? This is crazy. But that's what they're doing. And they're beginning to teach us in school. So they're changing the publication of the books with the history to kind of, so-called clean this stuff up. Don't clean, it's history. How you going to clean history up? It happened. Can you clean up the Holocaust? You can't clean that up. That happened. Can you clean up the Atlantic slave trade, not Sean? You can't clean up the Atlantic slave trade, not Sean. It happened. What, you look like your father? It happened. You can't clean it. You can't clean it. Happened. What do we need to do? We need to learn from it. Quit tearing down all these statues of these people that did something in history, good or bad. Learn from it and move on. So I'm like, man. Because I tell you what, it looks like for me and Nachan, it's homeschooling. We're going to be homeschooling. I think that's our best avenue anyway. I'm going to teach my son. I'm not going to let other people teach him. That may not be for everybody, but that's just for me. Homeschooling is what we're doing. And so I'm highly leaning towards that. Highly. At the same time, let Nakshan get out there and socialize, put him in, all these, we got all this, YMCA and all that stuff. He can still get his interaction with human beings, but Nakshan's going to be interacting internationally. We traveling, so he's going to be he's going to come outside of this bubble. One thing I learned about my history is that I was the first to break that bubble. I'm the first one in my family to go to China. My family, they never left Louisiana. I'm the first one to go to China. You see? Hadassah Grace says, I'm homeschooling now. Oh, Baruch Hashem, Hadassah Grace. Well, I may be contacting you for some assistance in that area. But Texas, I tell you what, is a good state to homeschool. I mean, they have so much flexibility, and they actually don't frown on homeschooling. The state of Texas is good. Atar says that's what I was thinking. Yeah, Atar, I'll tell you. Papa gonna teach his son, huh, Nachan? M for mama. So he's learning many things, and so it's very, very important that we understand these things. I can't leave these responsibilities, especially in this age and this time. Nachan needs to be taught properly, and I was watching this documentary on this tennis player. What's her name? That tennis player from Japan. She's Japanese and Haitian mix. Well, and I was seeing, that she was, they was doing, Naomi. Did you see it, Shane? Yeah, I watched it. So I was like, man, I'm looking at Nakshan, and, people, Nakshan he's Hebrew and he's Chinese. And I'm like, man, I'm looking at Naomi's story, and it's like, man, she was like kind of confused because Naomi was homeschooled as well. And she was kind of confused because she didn't know where she fit in. Because, you got some people saying that she was not black enough. She wasn't acting black and blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, she said it herself. She said, I realized that, I have a responsibility to my Japanese side as well. And so I saw that. I was like, wow, that really resonated with me. And I appreciated her doing that documentary and opening up herself like that. But I want Nakshan to experience. Shalom, Nakshan. I want Nakshan to experience, the whole of the world, not just this bubble, okay, you here in America. No, I want him to see the world. Establish relationships with the world. So he'll have a better perspective of things and not be just like, okay, well, am I stepping on this person's toes or this person's toes or this person's toes? And he go to school and they say, well, the Chinese are this, that, the other, and the third. You know what I mean, Oliver? When he go to American school, they're going to be like, oh, the Chinese are doing this and they this. And wait, Nakshan going to be like, hold on, sir. My mother's Chinese. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking about all this stuff right now. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm thinking about. And there's a lot to think about. There's a lot of responsibility placed on a man when it comes to raising his children. Because believe it or not, and contrary to what you've been taught, it's a man's responsibility to raise a child. I'm going to say that again. It's a man's responsibility to raise a child. Right now, John? Yep. You heard what Nakshan said. It's a man's responsibility to raise a child. So if it's my responsibility to raise my child, and my children, they're not trying to play that, then I'm going to take it seriously. And I'm not going to leave it up to somebody else to do it and then hope for the best, because I don't hope, number one. So that's very important to me. So in closing, Mishpachah, I have some awesome news to tell you guys, family. Remember, for many, many years we had been sending, Torah tools into the prisons. And remember, we've always said, we haven't heard back from anybody. Nobody has contacted us, from all of that ministry that was done. Well, guess what? This week, a man reached out to us. He had just got out of prison. He had been in prison for 16 years, and we had been sending books in for years to him, and he reached out to us this week. He was like, Rabbi, I got out. I've been in for 16 years, and get this. I mean, he has an awesome story. This guy, he signed with Rough Riders. How many of you know of the music production group called the Rough Riders? You may know of DMX. How many of you know of DMX that just passed? Well, that's his music. He signed with this guy. This guy, he was signed with them before he went in, but he was signed with them. And, he says, he called DMX by his first name. I think he said Edward or something. He said, I know him. He said, he passed. I was like, but anyway, he had signed with them and, again, his history, he got into some things and he ended up doing 16 years. I didn't ask him what those things were because there's none of my business unless he want to tell me. So, but anyway, he had been getting our books. He was one, and I tell you, I'm not going to say his name because I've been given permission to, but he was one of the ones that he actually reached out to us and he said, hey, thank you guys very much. He's got a lot of things going on that he wants to do now. And I'm going to set it up to where he does come into the room and he can tell you his story himself. But again, for all of you who have participated in, with your tithes and your Tzedakah, you participated in getting these books in, this is going to be the fruits of your labor. You're going to see it for yourself, be able to talk to him. Great guy. He's very down to earth. But again, he has a lot of, you've been in prison for 16 years. I mean, my goodness. Of course, a lot of things have changed. But, more importantly, what he said was a lot of things have changed within himself. He's having to adjust. No, Sean. He's having to adjust. Here. We'll change diaper. You can make Papa. How you change diaper? So you go change diaper. Quickly. So he's having to adjust within himself. A lot of things having to take place. So I'm looking forward to him coming on. We just got his information, and we'll be contacted with him, send him some up to date. But he has a lot of things to catch up on, and it's very, 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 very interesting. This guy, he has a lot of things that he wants to do. But I told him right now, just focus on yourself. Because, like we said earlier, all of you know, family, when you focus on yourself, then everything outside of you is going to be taken care of. But you focus on yourself and your family first. This is what you got to get right first. And yourself and your family. Because this first thing coming out is that religious mentality. Oh, I want to go out and minister to the world. No, I told him, no, brother. You need to begin to minister to yourself first. And he calls himself minister something or whatever. But I said, no. Your first ministry is to yourself. You have to establish a relationship with yourself first. And take care of your family. And then everything will emit outside of that. It'll go out. Right? So I look forward to him coming on board. Oliver, know yourself. I look forward to him coming on board. I mean, 16 years in prison? That's a long time. But I'll let him tell his story, and he wants to be connected with HaKohen, and that's what's important to me. I said, man, look, never leave the Kohen. Whatever you do, never leave the Kohen. He said, yeah, I read all his books. The books y'all sent me, I read them, and now I'm out, and I want to do something. I want to help, I want to give back, and blah, blah, blah. He's got this talent with rapping. I was like, man, wrap it up, Rapalicious, wrap it up. If that's your talent, and that's your ability, and you love doing it, well, I thought I couldn't rap. Well, who told you couldn't rap? I mean, my goodness, man. Again, that's what religion does, right? It shackles you. I thought I couldn't rap anymore because the Most High wouldn't like it. I said, the Most High likes what you like. Again, but he needs to come into that. So what he wants to do, well, the reason why he called is he wants to use Hakoin's information to start a YouTube video, a YouTube site. He wants to do some teaching and blah, blah, blah. But I told her the first thing you need to do is come and sit at the feet of the Kohen for a minute and get your feet wet and stand under his umbrella so that you can nurture and grow yourself. He needs to grow self now. He needs to minister to self now. And that's what's going to take place. And let's see if he comes on board, and we're going to go from there. But yeah, Mishpah, I think this is about a wrap over here on this end over here. I want to tell you all I love you all, and I love our way of life. Because he kept talking about religion. And that's one thing I told him, you got to shut the doors to religion and lock it, and then throw that key, flush it down the toilet. Because religion has nothing to do with where we are right now. It's not about religion. And I see this. And going out, outside of my base, even within my base, I see it. It's our way of life. This Torah is more than just a religion. It's not even a religion. It's more than that. It's just the way we live. And it's so beautiful that we can have such an effect and an effect on everyone around us. And the demonstrations that I gave in my personal life, I could truly see what the Master Yeshua was saying when he said, you are the light of the world. You know what I mean? We really are. When you can go in there and you can change the scene in a restaurant, you can totally change the story. You can change the story with whatever you want to change. Right now, Sean? You want to play there? You want to play? You tell everybody Shabbat Shalom. You say Shabbat Shalom. Huh? So we can totally change the scene, change the whole vibration, the whole energy of our environments. I want you all to remember that this week as you go through your 6 days of labor. Not only remember, but change. Change your whole environments. Change them for the good. Change them for how you want it to work, because it will. Well, you're saying, Rabbi Kefa, can we manipulate people? In a way, we can. Think about it for a minute. I manipulated those people in that Chinese restaurant, and I changed their whole environment from cloudy to sunny. That's what we went to. They went from cloudy to sunny because I came in with the sun. So when the sun comes in, can the clouds stop it? I submit to you not, because the sun's going to shine regardless. You know what I mean? Right now, Sean? You want to tell people Shabbat Shalom? Where Papa ZZ? Where's ZZ? One of his first words was ZZ. He said, ZZ? He'll grab my ZZ. He'll say, ZZ, ZZ, not Sean. So, yeah, it's very important that we understand that. I'm going to continue to change my environment and manipulate people for the good. Because, look, at the end of the day, what has religion done? Manipulated people for the bad, for the most part, right? Because they never really got on with their lives. I look at my grandmother who died as a Catholic. She never got on with her life, Lakshan. She never got on. Yeah, it's easy. So she would go to church, pray the rosary, but she never got on with her life. Not a full life. She was just running the story. Playing the record, playing the history of religion. We're not here for that. None of you are here for that. You write your own history the way you want to write it. What your history? What would be said about you in the annals of history? What would be said about you? Huh? Write it. Positive things. How you changed environments. How you change people. How you touch people's lives for the positive. That's what we're here to do. Regardless if they come into our way of living. This ain't for everybody. They can't handle this. But at least you can make them better people. That's my whole thing. I'm not here to go out and evangelize. So I was telling that guy, look, man, you've been 16 years in prison. Our remit as the Hebrews is not to go out and evangelize the world. We're to take care of our families, multiply exceedingly, increase exceedingly. That's what we're here to do. Take care of yourself. Everything else will take care of itself. So I say Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to all of you. And me and Nakshan go sign out. I love you, and I leave you all in the great hands of the Most High. Eddie, it's good to see you again. Welcome back. I know you got some stories to tell, brother. Baruch Hashem. And that's great. So we love you, and we leave you in the hands of the Most High. We're not going anywhere. We're here to stay. Right, Nakshan? You have some cheese? We're here to stay. We're not going anywhere. We're establishing ourselves in the land, outside of the land. It don't matter. We're established. We're established and we progress. That's what we do. We don't regress. We progress. So Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to all of you. Hakohen is going to be in travels, by the way. Keep him in your meditations, uplifting. He's going to be in travels for a couple of weeks. So, we're going to hold it down and just keep him lift him up, in your meditations, Mishpah. So we're going to hold it down and we're going to keep it moving forward. So you'll be hearing recordings come in like this. I'll try to make a necessary adjustment so they can come in a little bit more clearer. Maybe I can kind of amplify it a little bit, make it come in more clear. But we'll work on that. So Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Shalom to all of you, Mishpah. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Enjoy your families, friends, and loved ones, and have a great 6 days of labor ahead. Because it is great, and we are greatness, man. We're greatness.
Wow.